Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're doing Gaming News Consolidated. This is January 18th, or excuse me, through the 12th. Let's see, from the 12th through the 18th. We'll get it out eventually, folks. And boy, yeah, we finally have the news picking back up. It's been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks with the holidays. But yeah, this week is packed again. More stuff is rolling now toward the middle of the month. And man, this is getting nuts. So yeah, we got the Switch 2 that was released. Excuse me, we're going to talk about some canceled PlayStation games. Suhai also, with roughly like 30 years at PlayStation, he had an interview after leaving Sony and shed some light on some things, which is pretty interesting. We also got the ending of Suicide Squad. Yeah, boy, there's actually quite a bit. So, and yeah, there's much more. There's so much more. We got another full 5 pages of this stuff. And yeah, hopefully you guys have been doing well. What we do at Gaming News here is basically take time with every single week to watch videos, read articles, do some research, and usually this takes hours every week, and we shove it all in one place here to just consolidate the news. That way you don't have to watch all of the different types of videos, all of the big stuff that actually comes out for the week. We basically have it right here. Anything that's kind of like rumor or hearsay or just speculation, we usually wait for actual data to come out to then talk about it. So that's what gaming news is all about. So thanks for tuning in, and let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about the Switch 2. Switch 2 was finally teased, and we got to see it. It's bigger, about 25% bigger. It's mostly black, and it does include the Joy-Cons. The estimates are roughly about a 8.5-inch screen, somewhere in there. Some people are saying 9. Some people are saying a little over 9. Again, we won't actually know until we get our hands on it. But yeah, it's roughly a 8.5-inch screen. The original Switch 1 LCD model, for reference, was 6.2 inches, and the Switch OLED is roughly 7 inches. And we can probably expect the Switch 2 OLED at some point, just following the same pattern that they've already had. And this will basically be like 9.5 inches when this releases. Usually, we get the OLED after some sales are slumping, or it's been out, for 3-4 years, and then they pump out the OLED version. There's currently no confirmed specs for the Switch 2. We also did get to see that the Joy-Cons are magnetic this time. There is a little bit of a lip to kind of connect in. And some people are worried about like the twisting or getting frustrated with gaming and like breaking off the Joy-Cons or the little connector pieces on the sides. I don't know. We'll have to see again how flimsy this thing kind of feels and people's play styles. Of course, if you chuck it across the room, well, yeah, probably shouldn't do that. Yeah, we'll just have to see when we actually get it. There's also no price for this. Estimates are $400 to $450. Very small, tight range. Some people are actually saying less than $400, but I personally don't see that. But yeah, we'll have to see. Nintendo is also telling us to tune in on April 2nd, 2025. And as far as we know, this is not the official release date. This is just more information on the Nintendo Switch. So this really more or less was just like a teaser trailer. They kind of indicated more like an initial look. But yeah, it's very much a teaser of about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. We know, too, with April 2nd, this will likely also be a Nintendo showcase. They'll probably give more information than just the specs, or it might even be more information than just the Switch 2. So I'll be tuning in to watch it and to let you guys know what I see. We know, too, the Switch 2 will also be taking advantage of the backwards compatibility. So it will accept the Switch 1 cartridges, and we're not exactly sure. Excuse me. We're not exactly sure what size the cartridges are for the Switch 2, but they do look to be roughly basically the same size. It is confirmed by Nintendo that backwards compatibility also won't be 100%. Well over the majority, but there are some issues with some games that require like Switch 1 Joy-Con support, and of course that might be some issues. But yeah, Nintendo made a statement saying that there will be some technical issues for some games, or licensing issues, but well over the majority of Switch 1 games will be backwards compatible. And this is all coming into a context of it being actually at launch, not having to be like patched later or something like that. The Switch 2 is also using NVIDIA hardware. We know that Nintendo also updated a patent for a resolution upscaler. This upscaler will be likely or directly NVIDIA's DLSS. The whole point of this upscaler is to have a target frame rate, see what the resolution is on the screen, dumb it down if necessary, have the software drivers re-upscale it to 1080p, 1440p, 4K. We're not exactly sure what the benchmark is going to be, while also increasing the frame rate. So like we've already seen this with PSSR. We've already had DLSS sometime on PC with graphics cards. We've also already had FSR with AMD's graphics cards. So it's like this isn't a new technology, but for this being pushed onto console is a type of new thing for us that we're starting to see. Also, FSR is also available on PlayStation 5 and also Xbox. It's FSR 3. I think it's 3.1 for PlayStation and 3.2 for Xbox. But again, these games have to be updated. They have to be added to a list. The devs have to actually patch this. And this, too, is just going to include more dev time if there's actually going to be like a full-blown upscaler for Nintendo Switch 2. Because, yeah, the devs are going to have to patch all of this type of stuff in. And, two, if they've never actually really done this before, this could also maybe not look great to a degree, but also your screen, I mean, let's be honest, your screen is less than a foot big. So it's probably going to be harder to pick up those little teeny details compared to having a 50-inch in your living room. So yeah, there's definitely kind of a benefit there to having a handheld. But there is also quite a big handheld market. I'm working on a State of Gaming right now to actually talk about that handheld market and how many players have actually just now gotten into the space. The competition is actually quite fierce at this point. And Nintendo kicked it all off pretty much to begin with. This is not the first time, of course, to have handhelds. But, I mean, when we got the Wii U, that was kind of like the first handheld type that we got. And then Switch continued with that idea with the Switch 1. And then since then, it's really expanded over the last 7 years to, like, have the Steam Deck, having the ROG Ally now, having the Lenovo Legion, and so on. And it's really expanded into this pretty big mess. Even PlayStation has shared that they are in research and development for making their own handheld. They also turned the PS Portal to be independent from the PlayStation 5 console. And then Xbox has also shared that they currently have multiple prototypes that they're working on to also bring a handheld to the market. So yeah, it is kind of getting busy. This is getting kind of convoluted a little bit. And we'll have to see how that factors in. Of course, the Switch 2 is going to be coming out before PlayStation's or Xbox's competition or competitor. Excuse me. But yeah, we'll just have to see how that all works out. Currently, my wife and I were actually debating if we're going to be getting one. We were thinking of getting a Switch 1. You know, we do have children. They are getting older. But I was thinking, it's like, well, if the Switch 2 is going to be coming out, I might as well just wait to see if I can actually get one. So, The fact too that it'll be able to play Switch 1 games will actually be really nice, or the majority of them. And this is actually the reason why we bought a Wii U a while back. Is just we're able to play Wii games and Wii U games. And we're able to have a console that can have a really wide range of like a 15-year span of time where it can, play games from Nintendo, which is great. So yeah, we're kind of thinking of doing the same thing with the Switch 2. And like, would we upgrade to the OLED model? No. Just the regular is just fine for us. But yeah, in 24 hours, the Switch 2 release video on Nintendo of America has over 15 million views. They really blew up pretty quick. I'm sure they even have more now. Yeah, a lot of people have actually watched this. There's a lot of people that engaged with it, regardless of how some articles and news sources are saying, oh, it's kind of boring or whatever, or that they're not that interested. A lot of people actually did tune in. Something too that's interesting is that the stock of Nintendo on the day of the release video for the Switch 2, it actually fell a little over 7%. Went down. Let me confirm that. Went down actually a little over 7% on the release. So the stockholders weren't too happy. The reception they didn't like very much. So yeah, they sold the stock. And 7% is a really big drop. It's not the worst, of course, in history. And it doesn't mean Nintendo's dead or anything or dying. But yeah, they were definitely paying attention. And the sentiment around kind of, at least financially, from like a financial perspective, shows that the Switch 2 wasn't received very well. But again, yeah, I'm also seeing in the comments that a lot of people are wanting to wait and see what the specs are, what the price point is, and I'm right there with them. Because it's like, if this is now going to be close to a $500 console, because let's face it, the Joy-Cons for a pair are going to be $80 or more. And of course, you get one pair to begin with, which is nice. But, if you want to be able to play with more people on split screen or something like that, or the Joy-Cons, of course, fail, the stick drift, etc., then you're going to want to be able to have another pair of Joy-Cons, which is another $80, maybe even $100 now, since they're a little bigger. And then also the console itself, the Switch 2 is bigger. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. And then we're also possibly looking at a future patent with DLSS, so they can be factoring that in for the price. And so, yeah, we're definitely looking, I think, at $400, maybe even more. And that's honestly getting pretty expensive. But the things that it has going for it is that it's a competitor to the gaming space for the handheld market. And with the whole point of the upscaler, with Nintendo likely having this upscaler come out in the future, is to be able to take third-party AAA games, okay, like Jedi Survivor or GTA or Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, stuff like that, and taking it and being able to actually run it on the hardware. I wouldn't doubt that at all, because that's been one of their biggest issues, is not being able to have that access. But it's always been cheap enough that people have always been able to just buy usually a Nintendo console a little bit later after they bought their PlayStation or their Xbox. Those that generally have a PC, they don't seem to buy a Nintendo Switch. Like, once they're PC, they're just PC. But again, they get so many games, especially now. They get so many games and, quote, timed exclusives onto the PC platform through Steam. Like, why? Yeah, there's so many games to actually play. Why have a Switch? So, yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting what's going on. This, yeah, again, we will be... I feel like the channels that talk about Nintendo Switch 2 are going to have just enough information to just now talk about it for the next 3 months. Personally, we're not. This is the first time we're really talking about the Switch 2 because, again, we actually have some data. We actually have some information. So we're going to wait for the actual showcase on April 2nd, and then we'll have more information for you then, unless something else crazy happens by then. All right, let's move on. Blue Point, the developers, they were the makers of Demon's Souls Remaster. They've actually canceled the game. And this was the God of War live service game. God of War live service. That's shocking to me, because I grew up with playing the originals. And God of War is a live service kind of multiplayer game. I think that's too much of a change to the genre, honestly. I wouldn't buy it. No thanks. The fact, too, that live service is kind of a bad word in microtransactions and stuff like that. Like, that is not the type of game that I'm wanting. That's all live services usually are anymore, are microtransaction havens to just constantly try to sell you stuff. So yeah, that's kind of insane. Excuse me. We know too that Demon Souls was also a launch game for the PlayStation 5 back in 2019. So it's like, okay, they've been working probably on this God of War live service game for actually quite some time. And well, that's a lot of time wasted on the all of these studios that have had canceled games, whether they're PlayStation or somebody else. But yeah, they're now going to have to work on another project, and it's going to be another 4 or 5 years at a minimum before they get something else out. So we're already looking at whatever they're going to be working on is likely going to be a release game for the PlayStation 6. Think of that. That's getting kind of crazy. And at that point, they better be remastering Bloodborne or something else like that, which I did have a little bit more information on that too. According to Shuhai, the guy that left PlayStation after like 30 plus years, was there from the beginning since the PlayStation 1. We got a little bit of information to glean that it seems like Bloodborne is now back in the court of From Software. It's no longer so like From Software in the past was saying that Bloodborne was more of a PlayStation thing, that they needed to be able to give the green light, and now we're hearing that it sounds like Miyazaki, I think his name is, the creator of Dark Souls, etc., is that he really wants to do the project, but there's so many things going on right now that he doesn't have the time to work on that type of project. So maybe it's still both, but it kind of seems like it's more on From Software's plate now. And again, they're just working on other projects first. So, but still, I don't think we're getting any type of Bloodborne remaster, Bloodborne 2, anything like that. We just got what we got, and Bloodborne is honestly my favorite. It's really close though with Elden Ring. I really enjoy that game. But yeah, Bloodborne is what we have. So that's that. Also, the other studio, Bend Studios, it's actually right in my neighborhood. It's over here in Oregon. Bend Studios, they made the Days Gone. They also canceled or were forced to cancel an untitled live service game. And they were also told that they couldn't make Days Gone 2, even though they pitched that to Sony. So, yeah, all of the work they've been doing on this other live service game is also now down the drain. And, yeah, Ryan's legacy just keeps on giving. His focus on live service has just been crazy, because we actually start making a look of all of the games that we've had so far that have been canceled with Sony, and also the failures that we've had so far, is pretty wild. I mean, we had Last of Us multiplayer, we had Twisted Metal that was canceled, we had now we know there's a God of War. We also know there was an untitled other live service. There was a total, I should have written it all down, but I didn't have enough room. But there was a list of 9 AA, AAA games that were canceled by Sony just in the last 2 or 3 years. And that's really pretty crazy, because it's like they have this massive gap now of games that aren't really doing too well on their platform. We also know that Lego Horizons really hasn't been selling well. It hasn't even really been on the PlayStation Time Tracker, and also the player numbers were absolutely garbage on Steam. So really not thinking it sold very well in that respect. There should have been at least somebody playing it by now, but no, there's just nobody. We also know that Concord was a total failure. That was like 12, 14 days. They took the servers offline. And then there's upcoming titles that we're having too. Foam Stars was actually another one that was exclusive to them, but again, that one's not doing great. And then we have a few others that are timed exclusive. But like we still have Marathon that's coming down the pipe, which doesn't even look like 2025 isn't going to be the case anymore. Maybe now more like 2026, which is insane. And then what was the other? Oh yeah, Fair Games. We haven't heard anything about that. And then now there's also Project Gummy Bears, which I don't think is directly their studio working on it. I think they're supplying the money for a third-party studio to work on it. But again, Project Gummy Bears doesn't sound that exciting, and already it's turning people off. So, man, like they're just having some trouble. And then yeah, we'll have to see too with Intergalactic. A lot of people not really liking that very much with the reveal trailer for that. So Sony needs to actually start putting out some material that they can actually sell. Because yeah, having this massive hole of 9 multiplayer live service games, that's why the space just kind of feels empty right now. There is just not much coming out, and thankfully, there's stuff on Xbox, and they also have some partnerships with other developers and publishers that yeah, they are still getting some games to their platform. But besides Astrobot, all of their big games that they've had have all been through somebody else, and the big bangers PlayStation was counting on, including even Spider-Man 2, were just not as profitable as they were hoping for, or not profitable at all. Grain of salt, but 400 million from according from an insider on Concord, that is incredibly expensive. And a big loss for them. They are still making a ton of money, but their margin is way down. So the amount of money they're pumping in, 29 billion into revenue, well, that's only translating into a, roughly a 10% margin, which I'm glad it's better than it used to be. It used to be like 6 or 7. But yeah, still 10% is not necessarily great. And yeah, they need to get some stuff definitely figured out. But yeah, we got more live service games that have been canceled. Let's talk about Shuhai. This was someone at PlayStation from the beginning, helping build up PlayStation 1 and the launch of that and the games that we had. Well, he had an interview with Gamescast, and he decided, of course, to leave the company. We got to hear about this, earlier. And he's not technically retired. He's just done working with Sony. He's got some of his own stuff that he wants to focus on, which is wonderful. But like he was able to glean from us a few things with working at PlayStation. And we learned that Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel, it didn't actually sell as well as they were hoping for. The sequel sold less units than the original, not necessarily a good sign. And which was kind of insane. And then we also know that, again, Lego Horizon game didn't sell that well. At least we're assuming that. We're assuming that. Also, really nothing has really been talked about or showed, or even on PlayStation Time Tracker, the Horizon Remaster that was released in December. Again, there is just nothing on that game. So it's like Horizon is not really an IP that should really be pushed. I feel like people we're not asking for it. They're not engaging with the games for it, even all the way back to Forbidden West, which I'm sure was still profitable, but again, it just was not something that met expectations. So, and now we have a movie, and they canceled the TV show earlier. So, yeah, more Horizon content is coming, baby. If it's in theaters, maybe I'll go watch it. My wife and I are also thinking of maybe the Until Dawn movie, but we did hear that they also changed that as well. But yeah, the remaster we weren't asking for, but yeah, with all of these other cancellations that they've had, plus adding 2 more, it's like, okay, there's less stuff that you're having. You have to sell something. You have to get something out there for the console for people to play. And so yeah, Horizon until Dawn remaster for a video game, but that's just blew away in the wind. Like we haven't heard anything about that. And yeah, Herman Holst, he better pay attention. He's currently the head of the PlayStation Games division, so he's overseeing all of the studios, all of the projects, all of the publishing. And even though it's his baby, along with Concord, like man, he better wake up because if he's not paying attention to actually what's going on, that's a problem. And then Holst also saying that there's really is no red line anymore on what can go to other platforms, maybe even Xbox at some point. Though that is some of the speculation there that even some of these games eventually, if they do poorly enough, they might even come to Xbox. Because his whole stance and the interview that he had last month was, well, it's a more a case by case basis on what we need to do with the game and how it's selling, or what we think the reception will be. And again, it's all about making money. So follow the money. And if the money's not there, they need to get it on PC. They need to be able to get it on even Nintendo, like Lego Horizons. And then maybe even selling some of the publishing rights to some of the devs. And then the devs, of course, like MLB The Show and Death Stranding, want to get their game over to Xbox. So that's how we're getting some of these, quote, PlayStation exclusive games, is that they're selling the publishing rights and then the developer wants to get it onto as many platforms as they can. Which totally makes sense, right? That's how it should be. Make as much as you can. We also learned that Helldivers 2 actually sold more units than Spider-Man 2. This was a really, really big shock for PlayStation. We know that Spider-Man 2 has sold roughly about 10 to 11 million units so far, and that they are technically profitable. But again, we canceled DLCs. There was other cosmetics that were canceled. And I don't think we're going to see a Spider-Man 3 for a while because, again, the budget through the Insomniac hack was like $312 billion, or excuse me, $312 million. It was really, really expensive. And so, yeah, this was unexpected. The fact that Spider-Man 2 didn't sell well, having a tough time actually profiting. One thing, too, to note was that Helldivers was $40 instead of a $70 game, so a much easier price point to swallow. And then Helldivers 2 had a community that was very reminiscent from with some of the older folks and some of the younger ones, too. Excuse me. Helldivers 2 also had a ton of PC players. Like, PC players are literally have been upholding the game basically since launch. It has been on the PlayStation Time Tracker, but it hasn't been as high. And it kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes it disappears off the list. Sometimes it comes back on from month to month. And you can actually go back and check for yourself. PlayStation Time Tracker is a great resource to see how games are doing compared to others on PlayStation. But yeah, the majority of the players are definitely on Helldivers. We know that. And that's where all of the money is basically coming from, too. And I think partly it's just like Xbox players that have access to a PC, such as myself. Yeah, we bought the game and we played it. We wanted to be able to play something that was fun. And ultimately, if the game is fun, the money will come. And I hope all publishers are paying attention to that. But yeah, after the Spider-Man 2 initial launch, Sony did express, too, that they needed smaller budgets. Again, the price of the budget for Spider-Man was huge, but this didn't even include the marketing or anything else for the game. Excuse my voice, folks. I woke up from a huge nap I wasn't counting on, and good golly, my sinuses are all messed up, including my throat. So, but hey, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Also, we got to learn that Shuhei was removed from first-party development, kind of more or less that he was that Indy was struggling, and so he was kind of willing to take that on, but he was removed from all of the first-party projects, and we got a hint during the interview that he was basically indicating that he didn't want to go in the direction of live service, and so they were asking him to do something else. Herman Hulst was willing to do live service, as were other people in the studios. But yeah, he personally wasn't interested in that, and very much more in the solo story space or the story space instead of the live service experience. Um, so yeah, for him to share that too, some people are spinning it on their channel like he was pushed out. Some people are saying that he was more or less willing to go to indie. But he did. It did seem like during the interview that he was sad that he wasn't really a part of first party anymore, and not really as much of a influencer of all of like what Sony PlayStation is or what the PS5 is. Because again, that was all on the first party stuff, not as much on the indie. I did wonder too if this is partly why Astrobot was actually so successful. It was just a thought I had. There's no confirmation of this and why they won Game of the Year and all of that, why people loved it. But it is curious, if they basically did push him out, and he kind of got the feeling they, in a way, didn't want him there, and so they wanted to better utilize him with indie. And again, he wasn't for live service. He was pretty open about that, apparently at the company and in the interview. And so, yeah, we're not exactly sure where the line is. How much of him being pushed out versus him actually just wanting to do something else. But yeah, he's going to be doing his own stuff, which is great. And yeah, we'll have to see what he does. But yeah, no longer at Sony, which I think is huge because a lot of the people that have been making the games that we played and grew up with as kids, well, they're all disappearing or completely retiring, or passing away, whatever. And then yeah, these AAA studios, we wonder what's going on, and it's like, look, the old guard is gone. That's the problem. It's different leadership, it's different dev teams, it's different designers and directors, and then you shove all of this together and mix it up, and here's the game that comes out, and we don't want it, or it doesn't sell as well, or it's got a totally different take that just doesn't fit with what people are expecting. And yeah, we're just watching this in real time. Regardless of people's gripes about what type of games, the games aren't selling like they used to, and that's why people are getting laid off. And I think we'll continue to see layoffs in 2025. No, I don't think we're done. I think we'll continue to see cancellations too. We already got 2 of them from Sony. I mean, let's just keep on going, baby. I mean, this is ballooned to a point where the publishers have to have live service games in order to stay alive. And that's crazy. Single player games are not enough anymore. I mean, even Jim Ryan, before he left, or right after he left, expressed that, look, consoles aren't enough. We need to broaden it to other platforms, get it onto PC, get it onto mobile. But, like, to say consoles is not enough, that's pretty wild. Also, for Herman Hulst, as the CEO of PlayStation Games, to say that there basically are no more red lines, it's a case-by-case basis, that's crazy. So that means exclusives are, basically going away, following suit in what Xbox is doing. And whether people think it's more of a following thing, I think it's more or less companies are just looking at what's happening with the data, and the data is telling them, look, the gaming industry has changed. And so, yeah, the consoles are going to have to sell themselves. The services are going to have to sell themselves. The games are going to have to sell themselves or be put to a broader audience to try to get more sales. But either way, there's not enough money going around. And I think, too, this is going to be interesting when we get the Switch 2, when we have the competitiveness of PlayStation 6 versus the Xbox question mark. It's like, okay, all of this is going up in price. Where are people going to choose to buy? I think that's going to be very interesting to watch. In other news, we also got to see the actual ending of Suicide Squad. So they ended support, of course. We were never going to get to this point, but apparently they had it ready already. And yeah, they released it. And so this is actually really, really interesting. This is linked down below if you want to watch it, which I'll try to remember to Gamescast with with Shuhei. I'll link that down below as well, his interview, so you can watch it. But yeah, in short, none of the superheroes were actually dead, including Batman. It was Batman's plan all along. Um, but yeah, all of the superheroes were cloned. Brainiac was cloned. All of the fights are to where you wear Brainiac down basically, or work through all of his clones until you get to the real one, and then there's like a couple of actual fights there back to back to deal with and to take down Brainiac. When you win, the game imposes that Brainiac is actually dead, but then in the cutscene, um, the fate that Brainiac is given to is that he's going to be questioned by Waller. So which is it? Is he actually dead, or is he just being questioned by Waller? Like, there's definitely some inconsistency there. The Justice League is back, where we're not entirely sure what the heck they were all doing. Besides Wonder Woman, she is officially dead, so why they killed her off seemed pretty unnecessary in the game. And Batman was all along just in the shadows somewhere. Why the frick was he waiting? I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense. Um, but yeah, the Justice League is now back. They want to be able to atone for what's happened and basically set things right and basically free people from Brainiac's mind control. And then the squad is not sticking around. They're jumping into elsewhere and continuing to help in the other multiverses and all of that kind of stuff. The entire ending is narrated by Harley Quinn, including she narrates Superman and Batman, which just seems really tacky. Um, and I know it's meant to be funny and stuff, but yeah, again, it just comes off wrong. I really think if it had been a more serious toned game, I think it would have sold a heck of a lot better. But it is just cringy, funny throughout the entire thing, from what I've seen from other people. And curious, I had an opportunity to play the game for free, so I did. And I have my own kind of initial look of Suicide Squad, um, How to Kill COVID, and man, it is a mess. It is nothing I would want in a video game, from a AAA studio in 2024. It's just disappointing. It's insane. Excuse me. The end game is still repeating story missions. Um, you can still co-op. There's just more stuff to grind for. We have an increased difficulty level that can now be raised for the in-game content. So there really is no in-game content. Okay, there's no like loot, special abilities, extra characters to play. Like, good gravy. It's just like, yeah, just keep repeating the game, just keep grinding the same stuff. That's the end game for this live service DC universe. I mean, this is horrible. Like, they don't actually give you anything. I mean, Infamous actually gave you more than this did, and that's like, what, 20 years old now? I mean, for Pete's sakes, this is getting insane. We do also get to see Deathstroke. This is very much the Flash, of course. So again, just repeated move sets. The whole thing is incredibly frustrating. But it's at least it's over. But it's like there's a lot of inconsistencies in the story. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. You can tell the whole gameplay and the whole story even is just centered around live service, just keeping you playing. Oh, it's clones, it's clones, it's clones, and you hear that at the end of it all, and it's just like, gosh, it's clones. Like that's all they could come up with. No creativeness or anything. Man, if you want to play a good DC game, go back and play the Injustice games, especially Injustice 2, because that's got Brainiac in it. And I mean, it's a fun time actually playing that game. So, and it's cheap. It's been out forever, so you can get it on the cheap. And yeah, Injustice 2. Go play it. Have some fun. Get a palate cleanser for the game. There is going to be an offline mode, of course, for Suicide Squad for those of you that bought it. But man, I'm just glad it's done. Okay, that is just another game, hundreds of millions of dollars that failed in less than a year. First we had Babylon's Fall. That was kind of a big one. It's like, oh, well, it's a Square Enix game, but it's like, this is Warner Brothers and Rocksteady, and they had a game fail in less than a year. Less than 6 months. And that's pretty shocking. And then we had Concord. It's like, oh my word. And Star Wars Outlaws didn't sell enough. And Skull and Bones was a mobile game. And these are all delayed. Think of that. The delays didn't do anything. Yeah, and I don't even trust delays anymore. Delays mean that it's not a good game. It's not going to really improve anything in most cases so far, especially with the AAA space. And then they delay them more than once sometimes, like Suicide Squad. Okay, like Star Wars Outlaws. That was delayed twice, unofficially. Well, and then we got Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's another big one. They just delayed that till March 20th. It'll probably do better because March is a pretty dead month so far. February is really busy. But, yeah, the gaming industry is just disappointing. It's disappointing. Let's move on, though. We got to see, I had to include this because this was so funny. I guess Epic Mickey rebrushed the remaster isn't selling well. PlayStation currently has a trailer out this week, out Friday actually, titled Why You Should Buy. So basically, please buy. The game's not selling. The title just honestly looks really tacky. Watching the video, they're like, yeah, here's 6 reasons why you should play the game, why it's fun, blah, blah, blah. And there is a demo if you're interested. You don't have to buy this. You can actually play test it yourself. Lion tried it, said it was good for what it was, but it wasn't worth the price tag, the MSRP launch price. And again, even some of these remasters is like, yeah, $60 or $50. Like, that's pretty expensive for some of these remasters. I think if they're 30 or 40, that's a much better price point, especially when there's multiple games involved, like what Aspire's doing. Like, if you really enjoy a certain franchise like Soul Reavers or Tomb Raider, like, those have been, fairly good series, I guess. But again, it's like remasters shouldn't be a full price game. If it's something like Dead Space, yeah, definitely charge more because you're completely rebuilding the game from the ground up, or like Silent Hill 2. But even then, I think these remasters are, at $70 is really expensive when the game has already been played. Because while let's take the story for Dead Space, for example. I'm a big Dead Space fan. I've played all of the games, including the bad ones, and I've played the remake. And while there are a lot of little things that are different with Dead Space, while it does look graphically much better, some of the missions to some degree are also changed and different, and better too, to accommodate some of the movement mechanic changes that they did in the game, which make it improve it. I agree with that. It's still very much the same game. Silent Hill 2, it's very much the same game. And to pay full price again, for me personally, for a story I've already played, it's too much. It's too much. Even 60 is too much. So I did buy Dead Space for a little bit cheaper. I think I got it for 60 off of a sale or a deal or whatever. Or like used a coupon or something. I don't think I quite paid. Well, maybe it was 65. Maybe I used my GameStop coupon. That's probably what I did. But yeah, 70 is a really tough sell for a remaster. When it's totally a brand new IP and whole new story and everything, or it's a reiterate or like another addition to a series of games, that's great. But yeah, when we have something like Epic Mickey rebrushed, where it was just a certain number of people that enjoyed it, it's going to be tough to sell. That's going to be tough. At least PlayStation is making some money off of Disney, basically promoting it, because yeah, this is like over a 3-minute little video on their channel on YouTube. But yeah, ultimately, I think the product should sell itself. If it's being promoted a lot, that's not usually a good sign either, because good products, good services. They don't need promoted. They don't need ads, especially after they've already been released. The product that is really good will sell itself, and that has been true through capitalistic history. And yeah, kind of a bummer. I mean, it's a good classic game. To a degree, there is a co-op thing. It's not quite like that. Like we drop in, drop out. It's not quite like that. But again, there is a demo if you're interested, and you can check it out. And nobody probably will, because again, there's other stuff coming. And we got limited time, don't we? Let's move on. Microsoft is having more layoffs in gaming, security, and sales. Those three departments. We don't know exactly how many layoffs or exactly specifically where, like what studios, what aspects, what offices. We're not exactly sure yet, but all of these layoffs are performance-based. So it's more people getting laid off. It sucks. Also, we got to see Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie. I actually didn't cover this. This has actually been in production for a while. It looks like we're also getting a TV show. Let me try again. Also getting a TV show too. Animated series. Looks like this will actually be on Crunchyroll. Not quite confirmed, but that might actually be exclusive to Crunchyroll, the animated series. And then the movie is going to be more broad, more accessible. So the movie has been announced since 2021, before I was doing this channel. And then, but there's still no actual release date yet. So they're struggling a little bit actually getting this movie out. Usually movies are, 3 to 4 years. And if it takes longer than that, it's getting a little bit expensive and long in the tooth. Like Minecraft, that's why they moved it from Netflix over to just a broad theater, which is coming out in April. Oh joy, I can't wait. But I'm going to review it for you folks. And, but yeah, this might actually be pretty good for Sony. Because, yeah, if the movie's available to go watch, I'd like to go watch it. I really would. I usually like Japanese movies. And then when I saw the actors, some of the actors too, I was like, oh, yeah, usually they're in some pretty good stuff. So I'm kind of excited. I do think, in a way, it's wrapped up because one of the actors shown in Ghost of Tsushima was actually in a car commercial recently, very recently. So I think we're getting there. I think the shooting is actually finished. The editing still needs to take place, wrapping up the loose ends and actually getting it out there. But yeah, hopefully we'll get Ghost of Tsushima maybe next year, 2026. Man, that's crazy. The time is going so fast, folks. That'd be kind of neat. So yeah, we'll have to see. I would expect these two to also be close to Ghost of Yotei, which Ghost of Yotei will probably be the end of 2025 this year. And like we got to see this with the layout of like Suicide Squad in relation to the game and the movies, like the expected release date, even the first what's the word? The first delay wouldn't have been too far off. But yeah, we're starting to see this pattern of multi-entertainment, where there's games and there's movies kind of releasing, year by year, and like keep the revenue and the IP going and flowing and getting more engagement. And of course, if you're delaying your game, you're delaying your movie, your TV show, or canceling it or whatever, that's of course going to mess with stuff. But I feel like that's kind of been the general plan that we've actually seen so far. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Let's see. There's some interesting stuff going on with Elon Musk in the gaming world. Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 2. Huge game, right? They've made so much money off of that game. It's kind of insane. But Quinn69 TV has analyzed actually Elon Musk's gameplay of Path of Exile 2 and says that his account that he's playing on is boosted. So basically what that means is that he's a much lower level character. He hasn't grinded that account himself. It's either been helped with XP boosts or someone else has played it for him and then letting him borrow it. And there are some weird things, like he's collecting keys that are totally worthless at this point in the game where he's at. Also, gear that's worthless too. He's going in different places where he could lose everything, like going in with full inventory, not being able to pick up stuff because, again, his inventory is full. Complaining about a level 52 weapon, which is like the best in the game right now. Um, and so, yeah, there's just some inconsistencies or just weird behavior. I thought, too, he could certainly just be trolling people. Okay, he is a bit of a troll, and he likes to do that. We've gotten to see that on Twitter X. And, personally, I don't play. I don't have any bone in this. But if you're interested in the breakdown, I can link Quinn69's TV's video down below. But it is kind of weird. It's like, here we might have a billionaire that's definitely kind of seems like they're lying in a video game. So some people taking this pretty personal as like, oh, a billionaire is lying in a video game. I personally think he's just maybe kind of trolling people, trolling his chat, because he is a trolly type of guy. He likes to mess with people. And maybe it's both. I don't know. But yeah, I did think this was interesting. His net worth now is $416 billion, which is crazy. The last time I saw his number was around 250 or 225. So he's basically doubled it already. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's trolling. I don't think he's going to have a lot of time anymore to really play since he's now part of the Doge Department of Government Efficiency. That's going to be his job basically starting really soon, actually. We're going to have the inauguration of the new president. And, yeah, he will have his hands full, I'm sure. It'll be very interesting. Let's talk about Marvel Rivals. So this is a free-to-play game. It's already made in its first 30 days $136 million. Holy smokes. Like, this game is on fire. All of the characters are free. None of them are paywalled. The first season is dropping a whole bunch of other characters. As of Monday, there's 288,000 that are playing on Steam. Overwatch 2 has 17,000 players. It's not really looking good for Overwatch 2. And live service generally falls off anyway. But man, there are so many people that are still playing Rivals. But again, this was, Rivals. We've seen actually kind of rise up a little bit. It came down some on the chart, and now it's kind of rising back up again. We don't usually see that. We usually kind of see spikes, and then it heavily sells off, right? But for it to kind of generically rise and get bigger and bigger and bigger kind of reminds me of like Pal World, because that was pretty insane for a while. But yeah, Marvels is really hitting it big. They're definitely going to be profitable with this. And they're just giving a product that players are liking. That's it. That's it, publishers. That's all you got to do. Think of the player, give the best experience you can, and then the money will roll in by the tanker load. Because, yeah, $136 million in a month. That works out to like 2.4, 2.5 billion. Or excuse me, 1.5, 1.2, 1.5 billion a year. That's a lot. That is a lot. Making a ton of money. Not quite as fast of a pace as Monopoly Go on mobile, of course, But still, that is crazy. That's crazy. So personally, I'm not that interested. But yeah, the content pace. One thing I do worry about is that the content pace for Marvel Rivals is actually really high. So people are getting a lot at the start. People are getting a lot for season 1. And yeah, there's a lot of hype around this. So the demand, the expectation is high. They've set the bar high. Now can they keep it there? And that's also sunk some other games in the past. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, the game is probably already successful. It's already at least broken even. And good for them. They're doing great. And Overwatch, man, you need to figure out your stuff, because I think they totally had an opportunity. But yeah, they just keep making the decisions that are best for the company, and not for the player, which in that case, it's not really best for the company, then is it? Is it? No, it's not. Moving on, Piranha Games is having layoffs after MechWarrior Clans released. The game is not selling like they were hoping for. It wasn't able to reach new players. And they needed their player base to expand in order to be sustainable. Well, that didn't happen, so it's not sustainable. So they got to lay people off. We're seeing this also with almost everyone. Like companies are struggling. People think it's like companies just raking in the dough and whatever. There's a few of those, absolutely. But it's like the sustainability is tough, and that is a CEO's job to maintain. And that's becoming very, very challenging for just about everybody, regardless of industry, too. It's not like everybody is just making a ton of money with inflation. No, the companies are suffering through this, too, including my own. I get to see that at work. So the support studio, they're going to lay off just about everybody, which is over 60 positions, and then Piranha itself, they're going to have 38 layoffs to the studio. And the bummer thing, too, with MechWarrior Clans is that this was the game honestly had more bugs and also didn't look as good. We found out that from MechWarrior 5 was made in Unreal Engine 4, and then MechWarrior Clans was made in Unreal 5. So there was probably a jump there, a bit of a learning curve for a new type of engine. And maybe it was a little too much. And so they couldn't make it look as good. They didn't know as much. There was a learning curve there. It took maybe some more dev time that they didn't have to kind of polish the game, to make it look better, to work on some of the bugs. And so, yeah, it is what it is. And the thing, too, that's crazy is, like, Clans, I don't think has really been out for that long, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, it really hasn't been out that long, and we see layoffs pretty quick nowadays. And so that's what's telling me is that there's definitely stress in these companies. Plus, you can look at their earnings call, too. I mean, like Sony making almost $30 billion just on PlayStation, but their margins are 10%. Like that's not good. They are coming up, which is good. But their live services aren't doing well, and then they have to say that they have to have live service to stay alive. That's not good. That's not boding well. And again, I think a lot of these other publishers they're dealing with the same thing. They're trying to find something that's gonna woohoo kick off, right? Like Fortnite did, like Marvel Rivals is, like Pal World did, or Helldivers. But lightning in a bottle is really hard to capture, and you capture it when you least expect it. When the pursuit is money, the lightning's not going to come. It's just how it works. It's just how it works. Some other crazy news is that we found out in 2024, Jedi Survivor actually sold more units than Star Wars Outlaws did. The reason this is insane is because Star Wars Survivor came out in 2023, which means most of the people probably would have bought then, not in 2024. This did happen in the European markets. Apparently this happened in other markets as well, but I can't confirm that, which is frustrating. But yeah, this is kind of crazy because, again, the majority of the sales would happen in 2023, not in 24. And the fact that it still sold more units, more copies than Outlaws did is kind of shocking, because Outlaws still sold a few million. But yeah, it wasn't enough. And that's why they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows. So, yeah, that's kind of insane. In other news, another player doing the math in League of Legends says if you basically try to grind a champion today, it would take you 882 hours. Yeah, I don't think new players are really going to come to the game unless they have money. And this is kind of how it happens, right? A lot of these games, they have certain mechanics where you can like earn stuff in game, you can earn rewards, you can do your daily login stuff to get you playing and whatever. But then it's like they slowly take away your ability to do things, to buy things for free. We're even seeing this in Call of Duty. I was mentioning this to some friends earlier last year and was telling them, it's like, yeah, you used to be able to get a lot more coins in the Battle Pass, like free coins. and be able to kind of earn that. You also used to be able to earn the entire battle pass. If you grinded the entire thing, you could get enough free currency to just buy the battle pass. And that's kind of unheard of today. So it's like companies, again, are trying to extract more money from their player base, more or less out of necessity. But boy, 882 hours to grind a character for free? And this is just one character. Like, oh my word, that is pretty crazy. And so these are just kind of some of the like really pay to play, pay to win type of progress forward mechanics that I personally just hate in video games. And free to play can be a wonderful model, but this is actually one of the reasons why I quit World of Tanks. It's just like the better tanks you had to pay for, and they wanted to charge you 30 or 50 bucks for a tank or a plane or whatever. And yeah, no thanks. I'm okay just grinding it for free, but then it was so frustrating. It's just like, whatever. And so, yeah, now I play War Thunder, and that's honestly a lot more fun. And if y'all want to play someday, if we could figure out scheduling and stuff, that'd be a blast. That'd actually be really fun. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting. It's almost 1,000 hours to unlock a character in League of Legends. That's crazy. The director of Dragon Age, Veilguard, has left BioWare. So this was kind of a surprise out of left field. They left a few days ago, apparently. This is the BioWare Edmonton studio. They've actually been with the company for quite some time. But, Bush knows something. I'm guessing that's why they're leaving. Yeah, quote, decided to leave to pursue a new challenge and, their own project. Says that Veilguard was the highlight of their career. Well, why leave? Something's not adding up there. We also know Veilguard underperformed as a AAA game. There's also a lot of money behind it. They've also already had retooled the game from being a live service to being now something else. This was also Dreadwolf and had turned into Veilguard. So they did retool quite a bit of stuff. There were some of the mechanics in the game that were very live service-y feeling, and some of the current game mechanics that are still in the game. If you think of it more like a live service game, it makes more sense. Some of the gameplay and the mechanics in there, it makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, this is kind of surprising, maybe not unexpected, but just so close to the launch of Veilguard. Again, this was October 25th, I think. So the game's been out for like 3 months. And the director's leaving. What about the next Mass Effect game? They just, I don't know. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on that. Well, we've also seen some already heavy discounts on Veilguard, which never bodes well when there's heavy discounts. 30% off. That's pretty steep. And that was even after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is kind of crazy. I'm sure in the coming months we will see some more discounts for Veilguard. I think there was even a discount for Veilguard this week. Just a random one. But after 3 months, yeah, that's not going good. That's a problem. It is expected, but it's not confirmed that the studio will close. So again, that is not confirmed. We'll have to wait and see. But if the director's leaving, that doesn't look very good. But yeah, if they're going to close, we're going to see that probably before summertime, would be my guess. So we'll have to wait and see. There was an insider, apparently, so grain of salt, folks, that says the game sold roughly 1.5 million copies. And expectations were over 10 million by this point. Wow. If that's true, that's bad. So that means that if they basically sold every game at $70, which they didn't, it would be 105 million. And that is not profitable. Oh boy, that's bad. So regardless of how people think and view, how can I say it? Well, the social stuff, the social political in games, that does have an effect on sales. It also has an effect when it's a live service game. It also has an effect when the gameplay feels generic. It also has an effect when you're playing an RPG, but you can't do RPG decisions. That affects it too. So it's like all of these things just shoving stuff together just does not look good, does not bode well. And even their collector's editions, man, those are going to be trash. Scalpers are going to lose money on those. And then, too, even the collector's editions, they didn't even come with a physical copy of the game. Like, what? That's stupid. That's stupid. But yeah, if it's honestly, 1.5, roughly 2 million copies, and they were expecting over 10 by now, oh boy, that is going to be painful. Yeah, if that is accurate, no wonder the director left. And then where are they going? I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, Veilguard, it's not looking very good. So we got some new NVIDIA cards, of course, with the 50 series. Well, some of the 40 series are going to be discontinued. The 4070 will be discontinued in January. The 4060 and 4060 Ti will reach end of life in Q1 of 2025. So these are the GPUs that are likely selling the least. And of course, NVIDIA is just moving on to continue to sell more new things that are shinier, and they can just keep making that revenue. That's just part of business. But yeah, if you do want to grab some, this will also make the price spike, I think, some, because I think there's going to be a demand for the 40 series, because not everybody likes what the 50 series is doing with the AI stuff, especially for the lower end cards. So there might be some scrambling a little bit. So if you're thinking of getting a 40 series, maybe you should just kind of get it now. Because, yeah, myself personally, I don't like the idea of how much work the AI is doing. And then I'm paying for hardware for a software improvement. It kind of feels weird. But again, I'm sure other people have their own thing. But anyway, regardless, any case, if you're thinking of getting a 40 series, maybe you should look at getting it now. Okay. Last thing here. I didn't expect to do this, but it did kind of come across, and it was already just kind of on fire a little bit while I was watching. But yeah, PlayStation held their XP tournament on Saturday. This was the finals for the tournament, and this was a 5-hour stream. They played Fortnite, Tekken 8, and Football Club 25 and Astrobot. Players were set in teams of 4. Cross, circle, triangle, and square, not X. They can't say X for whatever reason. I'm assuming it has to do with Twitter X, but that's unconfirmed. The team with the most points at the end of the entire tournament wins. Various games, various people playing, etc. The grand prize was a shared $125,000, and to win was basically thousands of bucks. But there's some really weird stuff with this, and this is why we're talking about it. So I personally don't think they're making that much money, and I don't think the advertisers are making that much money either. And we've already seen several esports collapse or fail or close in the last few years. And these have actually been some pretty big headlines. But yeah, this is just kind of interesting. But after watching about an hour and 20 minutes, which was really the last hour and 20 minutes, this had a hard time keeping 1,000 viewers on YouTube and getting over 13,000 viewers on Twitch. And this is global. And again, these are like teams of the top streamers for their game on their platform. Trying to probably get that's like millions of followers, tens of millions of followers. There were a ton of streamers out there. These teams were like 6 people. Yeah, 6, 8 people each. Kind of surprising. Yeah, kind of shocking. And again, just trying to get their audiences in is my assumption. But yeah, the viewer numbers really weren't quite there. There was also a level of unprofessionalism with the whole thing. Um, there were lower quality announcers. They were getting names wrong. They were fumbling with their words. They didn't know what modes were being played between competitors. They had to find out and see it for themselves. Um, Again, they couldn't say the word X, they had to say cross instead. There were audio issues when they were talking to Cypher, someone, again, that's been like a big Fortnite player. But like Cypher starts talking and you can't hear a word. Like, yeah, that just didn't bode well. Also, too, some of the players that were there to compete just came off wrong. Pretty rude to the announcers, to those that are on the floor trying to have a small interview with them, and it just didn't come off well. The ads too were annoying. They were kind of sneakier on pushing stuff in, but like they were pushing the game bundles, they were pushing the limited controllers, they were pushing even the Astrobot game multiple times. And I still believe that Astrobot is not meeting sales expectations. Again, I'll probably be pushed back on that for a while, but hey, that's okay. We can all have our own beliefs and opinions on things. Another thing too is like Astrobot was one of the games there, which was interesting to watch. It was probably one of the more interesting things that was more exciting, but like it was a game that didn't really seem to fit. And I think it was honestly supposed to be Concord was supposed to be the fourth game. But again, Concord doesn't exist. We all know the story about that. And so I think it was replaced by Astrobot. There was basically a custom map time trial, but this didn't seem entirely fair because the person to first play the level had no idea what to expect, of course, while everyone else is able to watch, including their competitor. So they can learn from the mistakes of the first guy, but in this case, it was okay. Okay, they were able just basically to face off. It was the top two teams with points, with one person that was able to play with several chances. And yeah, it was interesting to watch, but it was also the shortest, the shortest time. And it really, what was hilarious is that it really just came down to the Astrobot game. So these teams, they're pushing all of the points. They're trying to accumulate as many as they can over the course of like this weekend, and or this week. And the thing that was kind of shocking was the fact that it really just came down to the Astrobot game. So the point value got you to the Astrobot time trial because there was only 2 out of the 4 teams that could be there, and then whoever basically won the Astrobot game won the entire thing. That just seemed kind of cheesy. Like the rest of it really didn't matter. And then the thing too that was kind of crazy was like I got to see the numbers fall off when Astrobot came up in the finals on YouTube. It gained a few hundred on Twitch when Astrobot came up, but yeah, it just seemed like a kind of an odd game to have and how they did the whole competition at the end. But yeah, I honestly believe PlayStation did teams for the first time in 2025 because they're not getting enough people. So they tried bringing on more streamers to be a part of these 4 teams to try to bring in their audiences and actually play. These are people that came from all over the world. I mean, United States, Great Britain, Australia, Norway, India. They were from all over the place. One thing that was nice is that the hotel was free. The accommodations for them was free, and so were the flights. So that was nice. But the thing that was surprising is they didn't even know what the cash prize was for winning. That was hilarious to kind of watch on stream. It's like, okay, you're playing for earnings, for winnings, and you don't even know what the price amount is. That was kind of surprising. So we found out for the winners, which was Circle Team, they each got $3,000 each. And then second place, which is the other team facing off with the Astrobot competition, they got $1,500 each. And honestly, for a big tournament, okay, and we're talking like pretty big scale tournament here. This was ran by EA and PlayStation. And the thing that's really surprising is that they're playing for such small amounts, and then the players don't even know what the amounts are. That was kind of shocking because normally it's like tens of thousands of dollars for winning a tournament. But again, if you have a whole team and you only have 125K, well, yeah, I guess the teams then would have been bigger than like 6 or 8 players, huh? I'd have to go back and watch it. It's available on YouTube if you want to watch. I did see that there was a total of 54,000 people that tuned into YouTube at some point. But again, they were kind of there when somebody died or lost. They quickly like blipped off. So a lot of people really didn't stick around, and that's why I think like advertisers probably are really not making a ton of money on this. And a lot of other esports have failed. So it was just interesting to watch this because there was a lot of things that the announcers didn't know. There was just a lot of inconsistencies that you wouldn't expect from like a AAA type of production. And then, too, the viewer counts were way lower than I expected. And it's like, can they even be profitable? And I think the whole time, the whole thing, why they had teams for this was, again, to bring the more streamers in and bring in their audiences for more viewers. And they're going to try teams again next year in 26. But it's really not that interesting to watch. I mean, it was pretty much a waste of an hour and a half of my time. I'd rather just read the stats online really quick and save my time and do something else. But yeah, that was just really interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. This is really kind of the final thing of esports. I mean, we used to have esports pretty regularly, and now this is really the last big one that I know of. All of the others, I think they've shut down. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always find me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. You can also find me at Discord and Twitter X, though I'm not on those as much. And you can also find me over at Twitch. And if you want to see everything there first, like what's on the screen, you can see it there right on Twitch. I take those files, put them through an upscaler, edit them a little bit, and then get them all over to YouTube. Though there is other stuff on YouTube as well. It's not just gaming news. It's States of Gaming. Those are deeper dives. There's also playthroughs like what you're seeing on the screen. And then reviews and demos and stuff whenever I can do those. So there's a lot to click through on the playlist. Go ahead and have a look if you're interested. And yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well. And again, I got to reiterate, I really want you guys to focus on your goals. Man, your focus on your future really matters, and the goals help you do that. And I've seen so many people that have just been lazy, waited, held stuff off, and are not taking the initiative. And time doesn't wait for anybody. And these people are now in their mid 30s, closer to 40s, and they wasted their time. I'll put it that way. So for that, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, yeah, I'll let you guys see this. This was a mess. Yeah, this level, dude. This level. I'm going to continue to go through also the DLC for our Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. So stay tuned for that. All right, folks. I'll see you guys on the next one.